Hey, it's Wilson. Galvez stood me up for the second day in a row. So I'm joined by my dear friend, Jason Wolfe, who's out right now walking his dog in the suburbs. Jason, how are you doing today, sir?
The suburbs. I'm good. All is well. Beautiful day. Taking a break from work right now and happy to talk to you.
Great. I'm happy to talk to you also. So the big story in sports yesterday was Cam Newton signing with the Patriots. It's an incentive-laden deal that's worth $1.1 million, but he has a chance to earn up to $7.5 million with those incentives. Of course, Cam Newton spent the first part of his career with the Carolina Panthers. Won an MVP there in 2015. Made the Super Bowl. A team that went 15-1. But in recent years, things fizzled out, and the Panthers decided to move on to Kyle Allen. Cam's had some injuries, missed most of last season with injuries, and now we get to see how much he has left in New England. Jason, what are your first impressions of Cam Newton signing with the Patriots?
I'm horrified. I'm a Bills fan for most of your listeners that don't know that, or pretty much probably all of them. So I thought the division was ours to lose. Stidham as their starting quarterback was, I think that they had the worst quarterback situation in the entire league. And so when you think about that, like in that context, it's a lot to overcome. It would have been a lot for them to field a competitive team if you have the worst quarterback situation in the league. So they go from that to a former MVP, and when he's been on the field, he's still going to be upper echelon. I think he's only one. So my initial thoughts, and we were talking briefly about their draft. I don't know exactly how they're going to use them or what their offense is going to look like. I've not kind of started to imagine that. It's certainly going to look his game is so drastically different from Tom Brady's that their offense is going to have to be drastically different. So I haven't started to imagine what that's going to look like exactly, but I was really pissed off that it happened. It's very Patriots, though, of them to do that, just to grab somebody like a Cam Newton. I remember when they grabbed us, and there was a similar sort of thing. There were concerns or question marks around Moss, and then he went on to have record-breaking seasons. So yeah, I'm just I'm bummed. I'm pissed. I think that puts the Patriots as the Bills equal now to win the division. I'll have to think about it more to see who I give the slight edge to, though.
Right. You mentioned something that the Patriots offense will have to look different with Cam under center than what it's looked for the last 20 years with Brady under center. But I don't know how if that would work in the Patriots. I mean, my question is, I'm certain that whatever's left in Cam, I'm certain that Belichick will get as much as everything that he can out of him. Yeah. But the question is, how much does Cam have left? And I don't see how there's any reason to think, that all those years that he spent, without any real, blue chip weapons, and he's, Greg Olsen was pretty good, but other than that, it's not like Cam ever had any crazy weapons, at receiver or anything like that. Towards the end of his run there, he got Christian McCaffrey at running back, but it's just he spent years carrying that Carolina offense, and it's just kind of like, I don't think anybody can really expect him to do that in New England. I don't think anybody thinks he can be that that guy still with all the injuries that he's had and being over 30 and all the years he spent being a running quarterback. And certainly, you know, I mean, you don't have to, I mean, you can get quarterbacks, you know, just like any position, anywhere in the draft. But, you know, on the other hand, it's like, you know, it gives the Patriots, I think, more of a, you know, for their fans, it gives them, you know, more to be excited about because he's still Cam Newton. He still won a Heisman Trophy. He was still the first overall pick in the draft. He's still a former MVP. So, you know, it's just, you know, it kind of, you know, like I said, it's like it's kind of like what you're saying. There's a chance, you know, as the saying goes, because you have this blue chip elite. You know, hey Jason, stop making so much noise, man. What's your problem? What are you running around? What, did you break into a sprint or something? What's the matter with you?
No, it's just it's a little windy in the suburbs, I guess. To what you were saying, you're kind of listing his credentials. I always find it really curious, and I don't know. I'm not going to make a direct comment on it because I don't know enough to really make this position. But it seems like with black quarterbacks, we are always having doubts rather than giving them the benefit of the doubt. I remember when Joe Montana was coming off of his elbow surgery, right? And it was a huge surgery. But when he went to the Chiefs, there was such hope and optimism around going there. You know, there was obviously question marks. He was at the end, towards the latter half of his career, major surgeries. So I'm not saying that it was a slam dunk for them, but there was such optimism around him going there. And then, you know, they had a good run too. They went to a AFC Championship game, almost won that. And similar with Peyton Manning, same sort of thing. When he went to the Broncos, there was such optimism around him going there, and he was much later into his career, much more of a significant injury than even Montana or Cam Newton has had, even though Cam's have been kind of cumulative, you know, injuries, not just like one big thing. But still, I mean, when we think of that quarterback shelf life, he should be considered in his prime still, you know. And so there's, I guess what I'm saying is I'm more scared and worried as a Bills fan than kind of what the narrative is right now. I don't disagree that there's a lot of question marks, but he was an MVP not long ago, and again he's still in his prime, or at least what we usually consider people's prime for that position. So I don't know. I guess I have less doubts about, you know, what he can produce and that sort of thing. Will he run as much as he did in the past? I don't know. Probably not, but that threat's always going to be there, you know, and if he's in the pocket a little bit more, throwing a little bit more and running less, then maybe he becomes an even more dangerous quarterback. Maybe his efficiency improves. You mentioned that he didn't really have any weapons during his time, and so maybe that's part of why he did run so much. I don't know. There's a lot that's going to we're going to discover about Cam Newton's, you know, next chapter, and I guess I'm more scared. Or if I were a Patriots fan, I'd be pretty optimistic about it.
Yeah. Well, one thing about Cam, if you look at the numbers here, not last year but the year before that, in 2018, he completed 68% of his passes, which is by far a career high, which would indicate that, you know, as he got older, he started to become more of a you know, traditional pocket passer, and his rushing yards were, you know, less than 500. So that's why I said on Twitter that it's, I don't think I put it on Twitter, but that it's, you know, it's a shame that he won't have more weapons to work with, because he really doesn't, like, I mean, who do they have really for him to, you know, I mean, it's like I said, it's going to be a situation where it's like, you know, Cam Newton or the ghost of Cam Newton or whatever, and then just a bunch of guys and I don't think it can be Cam Newton and a bunch of guys anymore, and it still be successful.
I don't know. I think it could. Hold on, I'm walking by this thing. I think he could when the Patriots won their Super Bowl, the year before last. Nobody was saying the things that they were about their offense, right? That they were this past year, and not much had changed. When you think about their weapons, but what happened a lot to them last year, I followed them a lot more closely than I do other teams because they're our rivals. What happened to them was their running game went to shit. I mean, Sony was, injured here and there a little bit. But his yards per carry took a nosedive, and I think it had mostly to do with their line play. I mean, that's usually how the running game goes. Their pieces, their skill pieces. They drafted another first-round guy, so you're thinking, okay, they're going to improve here. But then they just took a huge step back, and I think that was the main reason why their offense went down so bad. People also forget that for most of the Patriots' Super Bowl titles, they've been a running and defensive team. Tom Brady gets heaped on all this credit, but most of his time there, he's not been a prolific passer. He had that prolific kind of era or that time slot there from Randy Moss to Gronk, when that transitioned. But before and after that, he's not. He's a very, in terms of numbers, he's a very regular quarterback. He's nothing dynamic going on there. And so anyway, the Patriots, I think they're in the way that they normally would. You're right. They're not going to have a ton of weapons for Cam like an Antonio Brown, where you're just given a bubble screen, and then he's going to turn that into a big play. Nothing like that. But I think the Patriots are building the way that they've built for many years, and they just drafted 2 tight ends, and so they're going to be implementing that type of personnel heavy. I think that'll be good for, now that I'm talking to it, I think that'll be really good for Cam. He had a great relationship with Greg Olsen. That's his most prolific receiver through his time there. So, I don't know. I think it's going to be, I think the Patriots are building the way that is going to surprise a lot of people. I think Cam will get too much credit and too much blame for whatever's going on there, as quarterbacks always do, and he's a lightning rod himself anyway. But I think they're on their course, and it's like I keep saying, it's worrisome.
Jason, hold on one second. Let me see it, because Galvez called me. Let me see if if I can bring him in.
Huh?
Galvez.
Hello.
Galvez.
What's up?
We're live, bro. We're live on the podcast. I got my buddy Jason on with me.
How's it going, Galvez?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Nice to meet you.
Galvez, if you had let me know that, I messaged you and I tried to see if you were free, and you didn't say anything, so I had to move forward. It's kind of like when Belichick will call somebody and he'll see, hey, I got a deal for you. You want to come? And then they'll go. The guy will hang up and he'll say, let me call my agent. And then when he calls back, Belichick already has made a deal with somebody else. So
just like he removed Fauci, second he was dissing them.
What?
Like the second Trump dissed Fauci, or he removed Fauci for dissing them.
Right. Okay, so Galvez, Jason and I were talking about Cam Newton signing with the Patriots. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's Patriot way, man. They always get these players for bargain prices, and it's a win-win because they didn't have to give up any draft picks. They didn't have to give them a huge deal like a Kirk Cousins type deal. You know, it's like I think it's a 1-year minimum, and it's incentive based. So Cam Newton obviously wants to show that he deserves a big contract next year, and you know, only the Patriots can get a player of Cam Newton's caliber for 1 year minimum.
Yeah, that's what the Patriots do. Jason was talking about it. They did it with Randy Moss. They tried it with Antonio Brown, who Jason just mentioned. They'll pick guys up off the so-called scrap heap. I still think they should have stuck it out with Antonio Brown. And actually, since Jason mentioned him, it'll be interested to see if they'd be interested in revisiting that this year.
Yeah, and then not only that, but I mean, Bill Belichick is going to be motivated more than ever to show that he didn't need Tom Brady.
Right. So,
do you think that makes a difference? I find that theory funny, because on a Saturday night when Bill Belichick's prepping, is he going to actually put in more time? I don't imagine that comes into play where he's usually on a day before I would work 9 hours, but today I'm going to work 10 hours because fuck Tom Brady. I don't see. I mean, I get it sometimes for players because they play angry, sometimes, and that's helpful in certain cases. But with coaching, I don't know how. It's not going to make him run harder or anything like that, like him being pissed off or whatever.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, well, for a coach like Bill Belichick, you're probably right. Maybe for other coaches it may or may not work, but coaches like Popovich or Bill Belichick, yeah, I mean he's gonna do it regardless. So I guess it's more on the Cam Newton side. He's gonna be the most motivated because. When these quarterbacks started getting these huge $100 million deals, everybody was saying that Cam Newton was next. He was next in line for that huge
right.
deal, and then
Yeah, and the thing with Cam and any quarterback really is when they've been successful, kind of doing it their way. Perhaps they start to get lazy in certain instances, But now coming to this situation, where he feels like he has to prove himself, I would imagine he's going to be taking all the input from McDaniels and Belichick and really listening to it rather than saying, no, this is what works for me. I imagine he's going to be very coachable, I guess, more than what he's perceived to be in the past. So I can see that for sure with Cam Newton and getting the best version of him in terms of motivation.
Yeah. Well, Wilson's a huge Patriots fan, so he should be the happiest.
I know. Of course he is. He's a Trumper and a Patriots fan.
Well, see, this is interesting because when Brady left, and Stidham was the presumed successor, I wasn't even worried about the Patriots anymore. Then the Patriots got Cam, and it's like I said, so you tell me there's a chance. And then I'm like, well, maybe I am actually a Patriots fan, but I'm not from Boston. I mean, I'm a Tom Brady Patriots fan. I'm a fan of the dynasty.
No, you're a dynasty fan. I've never met. I mean, that's the typical bandwagon though, son. You're an Alabama football fan. You're a Patriots fan. That's just basically being a bandwagon.
Yeah, well,
Anthony attaches himself to white racism as often as he can. So things like Alabama and Tom Brady, he's all
yeah. I'm surprised he doesn't like the Celtics.
I know, right? That would make perfect sense.
Well, no, that's gone a little too far. But I guess we've said enough about I mean, we'll just have to see what happens with that.
Do you have predictions for this season, Galvez? Because we were talking about this, and I was like, I haven't thought about it enough to pick them, record wise or in the division. Do you have any thoughts on where they're going to finish the season
for the Patriots?
Yeah.
Well, the crazy thing is that with everything that's going on, this whole COVID thing. We don't know how long these guys are going to have an off season for, and for a coach like Belichick, who needs the time to implement new systems and obviously a new quarterback. So, but you got to look at who's in their division. The Giants are a mess. The Bills.
Giants are in their division.
I'm sorry, the Jets. The Bills. Who knows? Allen might end up being an okay quarterback, and then the Dolphins are the Dolphins. So I still see them minimum a wild card team. They might end up winning the division, but for sure I would say a wild card team.
Yeah, I'm there. I think that I'm a Bills fan, so I think with you saying that Allen might be a good quarterback because he's clearly a stud already. But I digress. This second year, it's usually the biggest year for after rookie quarterbacks. It'll tell you. It's because remember Trubisky, everybody thought he was going to be a pretty, good quarterback, and then just that second year just killed him. Yeah, it was his second. It was the same sort of. This will be Allen's third year, but his second full-time starting year.
Second full-time starting.
Yeah, and that's how Trubisky's third year, second full-time starting. He's nosedived, so I hope that's not going to happen to Allen. But I think the same sort of prediction as you. I think they'll be in the running for. I think it'll be the Bills and the Patriots at the top of the division, and the loser of the division probably sneaks into the wild card.
I think that it'll either be boom or bust. Like it'll be either be like a huge Cam Newton comeback player of the year type of deal where they go 12-4. Or it'll just be, it just doesn't work at all, and he gets hurt, and they end up cutting him or something like that, and it just, they'll go 6-10. Yeah,
I don't unless Belichick, if he sees that they're really faltering like right out the gate, he may just say, okay, fuck it, I don't want to tank, but we got that kid from Clemson. We got him coming up. And so maybe we should, kind of... But they would have to get the number one overall pick. Whoever's, Trevor Lawrence is going number one regardless. Right. So I don't think he would tank that much. But there are other great quarterbacks. So, but if they're at 5-5, if they're at 500 by week, I'd say 8 or week 10, I don't think Belichick would let them lose.
I agree. I think that he'll just Belichick alone, just that team like before Cam Newton was there. I think their floor was like 6 wins already. So,
and it's something that Wilson won't like to hear, but Tom Brady was not Tom Brady last year. He was just an average quarterback who just played for a really great system. And now, if it was Tom Brady from even a couple years ago against the Eagles, Super Bowl Eagles team, I would still say, okay, there might be a huge drop off, but it's not that big of a drop off, especially seeing Tom Brady last year. You could tell there was games where Tom Brady just was, you could put another quarterback and just, they wouldn't even see the difference.
Yeah, I was saying a very similar thing to that. He's not dynamic by any means. So,
all right. So, in other news, the NFL.com recently began a series called College Pipelines to the Pros, where they'll be ranking universities based on how well they produce NFL players at each position. They've done quarterbacks and running backs so far. USC was named Quarterback U by NFL.com. This isn't the first time USC has been called or named Quarterback U. It's a reputation that USC has for being a pipeline for pro quarterbacks. Going back to the Carson Palmer era, Carson Palmer, of course, a Heisman Trophy winner, the first overall pick. Matt Leinart, a Heisman Trophy winner, the 10th overall pick. John David Booty is a guy who got drafted. Mark Sanchez was a top 5 pick. Matt Barkley got drafted. Then you go to, who was after Barkley? Cody Kessler was a guy who got drafted. And you had Sam Darnold, who was a 3rd overall pick. So it's been can't forget about Matt Castle, who was drafted even though he never started a game for USC and had probably the second best career after Carson Palmer. So it's been a really incredible run for USC of putting quarterbacks in the pros. Pretty much if you start a quarterback for USC, you're going to get drafted. And, even guys like, Kessler and Barkley, Sanchez, Sanchez had a run. Sanchez made a couple of AFC championship games right there at the start of his career. And then, these are guys who multiple game starters in the NFL, and holding down backup jobs and stuff like that. So Jason, what is your, do you agree with USC being quarterback U?
I do. Who's 2 and 3 on that list? I don't think you said.
What do you mean?
The 2 and 3 on the
I'm sorry.
quarterback
yes.
U.
So it was USC, then Oklahoma, then Florida State, then Oregon, then Fresno State, then Auburn, then Cal, then Stanford, then Texas, then NC State.
Yeah. The Oregon was what? 4th?
Oregon was 4th.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, Oregon's the only one, without looking really in depth about it, they're the only other one who I think could kind of rival them. But no, I agree. And the only reason I think Oregon could rival them is because their system is fits more what the direction a lot of pro offenses are going now. But anyway, I think if you're basing it off of players being drafted, then you can't really argue that it's USC. The thing about USC is because they have that reputation, they're always going to get these top end recruits who see that all their quarterbacks are getting drafted, and so those top recruits are going to go there. And then when pro teams are drafting, they're seeing those one-time high-level recruits, and even if they weren't successful, or to whatever degree they were successful at USC, teams will still draft them. You mentioned Castle, who didn't even start for USC, and he still got drafted because he was a high recruit. And so those high recruits have all those physical attributes, and NFL personnel and coaches think, oh yeah, just give me that piece of clay, and I'll mold him into, the type of quarterback I want to be. As long as his traits are there, his physical traits, then we'll do what we want with it. So yeah, I totally agree with that list, and as long as the recruits keep going to USC, choosing that school, then it'll stay that way.
Galvez?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get drafted to the NFL and you're a West Coast kid, you got to go to USC. If you want to play quarterback, they might not make a Pro Bowl, they might not be successful, but they are going to get drafted. And you got to think, all these quarterbacks in the after Carson Palmer, the reason why they were getting drafted was because every college system was very gimmicky. And the NFL, it wasn't until the last couple of years that they started running Wildcat, and they started doing a little more. They started getting a little more innovative. But before, it was all, we need a quarterback like USC, pro-style offense that plays under center, not, the spread offense, And so that's why USC, they usually have the most quarterbacks drafted, just because they run that pro-style offense. Regardless of who the head coach is, unless they get someone like Chip Kelly or maybe Urban Meyer, but they've always had that pro style offense.
Right. Yeah. It's a yeah. I mean, you put it perfectly. That's really astute. Jason, what the hell are you doing, man? You sound like you're in a storm or something.
I'm sorry. It's windy.
How is it windy? What are you talking about? It's hot.
I'm up. It's really windy. I'm up on the hill. I'm up in Dominguez, and it gets really windy up on the hill. You can see the ocean from here, so it's high up. That's why it's called Dominguez Hills for a reason.
All right, man. You know what? Maybe we should just end this here. So let me see. Before we get out of here,
what's Jason? I want to tell you what I just saw a Bleacher Report. Crazy stat. I don't know if you guys knew. Let's see. Where was it? Okay, so Deron Williams. Remember Deron Williams?
Yes.
Yeah.
He hasn't played for the Nets in 5 years. Today is the last day he's on the Nets payroll.
Oh my gosh.
The Brooklyn Nets have been paying him around $15K per day over the last 5 years. And then I did the math real quick. So basically, in the last 5 years, he's gotten paid around $27 million without playing a minute.
That is good.
You know, that guy.
Crazy.
It's a shame that because he ended up only making 3 All-Star games, even though he was a top 2 point guard for it was years where he was a top 2 point guard, but they robbed him.
Yeah. The next, yeah.
But
is Bobby Bonilla still getting money from the Nets?
Yes.
He was one of those too. He's going to end real soon, though. He might have ended. He was like getting really close because he had a 20-year thing. 20 years.
What I don't understand is, do these teams not contact the players and say, hey, can we just work out an agreement where, like, we'll buy you out, we'll give you this large lump sum right now, and, to save them, like, so, because if they owe Deron Williams $27 million over 5 years, I'm pretty sure they could have said, all right, we'll give you $20 million right now.
I think that screws up their cap, though. That's why they stretch it out. That's what they did with Bonilla. They didn't want to have to pay him this huge amount right now, so they just said, we'll just pay you for 30 years or 20 years. And so, yeah, I know, it's weird. I know, it's nuts.
But Deron Williams is a guy who they robbed him of a couple All-Star appearances. If let's say he had 5 All-Star appearances, and I know he was by 30, he was pretty much washed up. But was Tracy McGrady a better player? Yeah. But Deron Williams made conference finals. He made Deron Williams was a leading, he led playoff teams in Utah, and if they had given him a couple more All-Star game appearances like he deserved, especially how they put people in the Hall of Fame now for basketball, he'd have a Hall of Fame case. So it's kind of because
there was a time that it was a legit conversation who was better or who would you rather have, him or Chris Paul for a good almost 4 or 5 years when they first came out.
And every time they would play together, Deron Williams would give him the business, like he was just overall. Chris Paul was probably a better point guard, but Deron was head to head. He was too big and too physical for Chris Paul, and he always had a chip on his shoulder, whenever he would play Chris Paul. So he always gave Paul a hard time head to head.
Chris Paul is 6 feet, 180 pounds.
Yeah, he's too small. Anything else? Hello?
That's it for me. That's just for me.
Okay, listen. Before we get out of here, just a reminder to follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at TCP_pod and to like it on Facebook. Just search for the Complete Player Podcast. Send feedback and mailbag questions to WilsonReportRedux@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts. The show is also on SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. We are out.